My name is Victoria Steele, and if you're hearing this, remember one thing: revenge isn't born out of anger. Anger is temporary. It burns hot, fast, and then dies out. But the kind of revenge I carry in my blood, it's patient. It's sharp. It's like a predator waiting in the shadows, studying its prey until the perfect moment comes. But I wasn't always like this. Before I became Victoria Steele, the woman who would turn pain into power, I was just a girl. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, in a brick house that always smelled of fresh coffee and old books. My father was a construction worker with rough hands and a back bent from years of labor. My mother was a school teacher with a voice soft enough to calm storms. I was their only child, their pride. They raised me to believe that if you worked hard, told the truth, and stayed loyal, the world would give you the same in return. I believed them. By the time I turned 22, I was chasing my dream of becoming a journalist. I had an internship at one of the biggest newspapers in the state, and professors who believed I could actually change the world with my words. My life felt like it was unfolding exactly as I had planned. And then there was Ethan Ward. Ethan was everything I thought I wanted in a man. Handsome, ambitious, charming in a way that made people follow him without question. We met in sophomore year, and within weeks, I was convinced I had found my forever. He wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my anchor, my best friend, my secret keeper. We had been together 3 years, and in those years, he became the center of my universe. But forever has a cruel way of breaking. I noticed the shift long before the truth came out. Ethan's missed calls, the sudden excuses, the way his eyes would flicker with guilt when I asked him where he had been. But love makes you blind. It makes you bury red flags beneath layers of hope. And then came Madison Cole. Madison wasn't just some girl. She was my best friend. Loud, magnetic, always craving attention. We had been inseparable since high school. I defended her when people called her fake. I held her hand through heartbreaks. I trusted her with secrets I'd never told anyone else. So when she and Ethan started spending more time together, I thought nothing of it. She told me she was helping him plan a surprise for my birthday. He said she was just a friend who understood him. But the truth was uglier than anything I could have imagined. One night I went to Ethan's apartment unannounced. I had baked his favorite muffins, stupidly excited to surprise him. Instead, I opened the door to find the two people I loved most, tangled together in a way that ripped the ground from under me. The plate of muffins slipped from my hands. My keys clattered against the floor. Ethan scrambled, his face pale. Madison froze, her red hair spilling over the sheets, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. If betrayal had been the only wound, maybe I could have healed. But Madison didn't stop at stealing Ethan. She wanted to ruin me. Suddenly, whispers spread across campus that I was unstable, that I was obsessive, that I had driven Ethan away because I was controlling. The lies multiplied, twisting tighter around me like a noose. And Ethan? He didn't defend me. He let the rumors grow. Sometimes he even fed them. Soon, I noticed the way people looked at me differently. Professors pulled away. My internship hours were cut. Friends stopped returning my calls. Madison had poisoned everyone against me. And Ethan, my anchor, had become the hand pushing me deeper underwater. I remember one night sitting in my bathroom, staring into the cracked mirror. My reflection looked hollow, my eyes swollen from crying, my lips trembling as I whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I am crazy." But deep inside, I knew the truth. I wasn't crazy. I was broken, and they had broken me. In those sleepless nights, I thought about ending it all, just vanishing, letting the pain consume me until there was nothing left. But then, a different thought crept in. What if I didn't end my story here? What if I rewrote it? I realized I had two choices: disappear and let them win, or rise from the ashes and become something else. That was the night Victoria Steele was reborn. Revenge doesn't happen in an instant. It is not a slap, a scream, or a punch. That would be too easy, too merciful. No, real revenge is slow, calculated, methodical. So I disappeared. I stopped calling. I stopped showing up. I let Madison and Ethan think they had won, that I had crumbled into silence. But in reality, I was watching. I studied Ethan, his ambitions, his weaknesses, his vices. I studied Madison, her addictions, her insecurities, her greed. I worked meaningless jobs to save money. I studied psychology, manipulation, human behavior. I learned how to twist words, how to plant doubt, how to set traps that no one could see until it was too late. Every step I took was deliberate. Every breath I breathed was closer to one thing: their destruction. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight like a wounded girl. I was going to become something darker, something they couldn't predict, something they couldn't stop. Because if they had taken everything from me, then I would return the favor. Piece by piece, I would strip away their lives until all that remained was the same hollow emptiness they had left in me. 3 years have passed since that night, and the girl who once dropped her keys in shock is gone. Now there is only Victoria Steele, and this is my story. They taught me at the university to chase truth with words. The streets taught me something else. Truth can be weaponized. The difference between a good reporter and a predator is how many facts you leave out. So I learned to curate reality like a surgeon. Excise what I didn't need. Expose what hurt them most. First lesson, make them comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of suspicion. I started by becoming invisible in plain sight. I cropped my hair shorter, swapped the soft cardigans for plain, practical jackets. I changed my social media to a ghost account. No photos, no friends tagged, only the barest trace of a life that looked dull enough to be ignored. Madison and Ethan assumed I'd moved on. The town assumed I'd been tamed. They settled into the lie, and that's when I began to stitch the web. I began with Madison, because arrogance is fragile and eggshell thin when tapped in the right place. Madison's strengths were obvious. She loved attention. She loved being seen. And underneath the flash was a quiet hunger for status. She wanted the accolades and the people who could give them to her. So I made a plan that fed her hunger and then starved her when she depended on it. I found out where she spent most nights upselling. Cocktails at a downtown rooftop, waking at noon, texting a string of influencers and wannabe patrons. I learned the PR manager's name at a firm Madison coveted. I learned which gala she'd been angling for months to attend. All small things, the sort of information that, when quietly nudged, can topple an empire of vanity. I didn't confront her. Confrontation is loud. It gives the other side time to erect defenses. Instead, I whispered. I planted a few lies like seeds, a casual, anonymous message to the PR woman questioning Madison's credentials, an unsigned tip to a lifestyle blogger about questionable behavior at her bar shifts. I threaded these with truth so they would pass the sniff test, half a story about missed rent checks, an old photograph showing Madison at a party with someone who'd later become a liability. People love to believe what confirms their gossip. The rest I let the hungry mouths do. The effect was subtle at first. A planned feature with the blogger got delayed. A charity board quietly rescinded an invite. A bar owner who had once smiled at Madison suddenly kept his tone clipped. Each micro-failure didn't feel like a victory, just tiny, irritating pebbles under her shoe. But pebbles become stones when you don't remove them. Madison started to trip. Ethan required a different approach. He had confidence, but his confidence had been sculpted by ambition and arrogance. The belief that he could take whatever he wanted because he deserved it. He'd learned to move fast, to take credit, to charm his way through closed doors. To dismantle him, I needed to remove his scaffolding, his network, his access, his illusions of competence. It began by undermining the people around him. I rented an office across the street from his new startup's loft and spent afternoons in the cafe below, notebook open. Pretending to be a freelance researcher, I listened. I watched the way his team deferred to him, the partners who winked at his jokes, the investors who slid glossy portfolios across the table. Everything has a seam. My job was to find the seam and pull. I started small. A misfiled document here, a misdirected email there, but always plausible. I leaked an innocuous spreadsheet with a miscalculated projection to one of his junior associates. and watched the error migrate up the chain until an investor questioned Ethan during a pitch. I sent a carefully worded email from an anonymous, addressed to a key angel investor about discrepancies in the company's early financials. They were half-truths, embroidered with enough detail to be persuasive. Investors don't like risk when it looks like carelessness. They run. And I learned to wield technology like a scalpel. I wasn't a hacker. I didn't need to be. I used public records, archived posts, and the low-tech power of social engineering. A phone call pretending to be from a lender, a spreadsheet accidentally copied to cloud storage with one cell. Highlighted, simple, human errors that concede doubt. People panic at the hint of corruption or incompetence. Panic invites mistakes, and mistakes cascade. But the hunt demanded more than sabotage. It demanded intimacy with their weaknesses. Madison had a fragile ego. Ethan had a brittle temper. Both loved control, so I exposed the illusion. I gave Madison a mirror that reflected her worst traits in slow motion. Staged encounters where fans asked about her past scandal. Curated comments on her old posts that reanimated gossip. For Ethan, I crafted situations where his temper would flare in public, and investors meeting with a paid actor who baited him with condescending questions, a staged leak orchestrated to provoke his defensive show-off streak. There were nights I had to step into the role of something I'd never been. Calm, polite, the helpful stranger. I befriended a server at Madison's favorite club and tipped them well to misplace a reservation. I complimented a receptionist at Ethan's firm until she trusted me enough to share her frustrations about internal mismanagement. I listened to the complaints and I turned them into leverage. When trust is built on shared grievances, it's quick to dissolve when those grievances appear to be true. People underestimate how easily the mind can be corrupted with recurring small blows. They assume only grand betrayals crush reputations. They're wrong. Reputation dies the way large machinery does, one cog at a time. The trick is to make each cog fail at just the right cadence so the machine doesn't stop immediately, only wobble, then shiver, then collapse.